Hi, this is Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, and you're listening to the Harris Highlights Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. This is episode 3 of season 4. And there goes the music blasting right now. Well, I guess we were having some
Did you not hear it before?
Nope.
Okay, it was playing in mono back here, so I could only hear it in one ear.
So there were some sort of technical difficulties going on, but hey, that's what makes each show special. That something can happen at any given moment. That's the beauty of live radio. Anything can happen at any given time. But the good thing is, we heard the audio. I can hear my mic. Now the question is, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, how are we doing then?
Keaton Slovis, let's go, man. Unreal. Kid's unreal.
I'm doing well.
Wow, that was like so not hype. I was hype and Lyle was like,
All right, let's go. They were on a bye this week, Notre Dame. So
I'm doing good.
Hoosiers by 100.
I think Josh might be the only person in the country that has a Slovis jersey right now.
Yeah,
That
I
is
mean,
fantastic.
I got it like
By way of Matt Barkley.
Matt Barkley was number 7. I think it's a Marquise Lee jersey. I got it after Marquise Lee was already gone. I found it at a Burlington coat factory for $15. So I don't know what's wrong with it. I think everything's fine with it. There's no like misplaced tags or numbers or.
It's not one of those jerseys
I don't know
you
what's
purchase online from illegal websites or
not
like trusted websites.
It's a legit Nike USC jersey, and it had the tags on it. I think it was like marked down heavily. I think there's something wrong with it, but it's been like 4 years and I haven't found it. So.
And it still fits, just like Lyle's Child XL Will Fuller jersey.
It's a little big, actually.
Is that one of the Pro Combat ones? Does it have the striping on the neck?
It's got the little stripes right
So
Yeah,
there.
it's one of the newer ones then.
yeah, but my Will Fuller jersey brings out the tone, so it's all right.
Sure.
You
So,
and Blake stay wearing a size too small, Lyle.
oh, here we go. So before we move on, guys, make sure to follow the show on Twitter at the @HHShow_. If you're listening to the show live right now on BlazeRadioOnline.com, head on over to Twitter, follow us there, and interact with us during the show. Lots of fun stuff coming your way. So if you haven't already, make sure to follow us on Twitter. And always, we're going to talk about this later in the show. If you haven't already, there's still time to join our Pick'ems League. Guys, did you guys make your picks this week in the Pick'ems League?
I think so.
This week I might have forgot, so I might have been on the bad end of the stick.
Brady?
Yeah, no.
So yet again, it's yours truly making his picks, but don't be like these three. Don't slack off. Make sure
three?
you make
Come on.
your picks. But did you make the picks?
Yeah, and I only got 3 of them right.
All right, so Josh is on board, and you can be on board too. The link's going to be in the description to this video below, or if you're listening right now, going over to the ESPN College Football Pick'ems, search Harris Highlights, and you could join the group there. Still plenty of time. But all right, guys, as we do now every week before we get into the news, it's time to talk about our college football fantasy teams. Now, this past week in the matchups, there's only one undefeated team remaining, and I am proud to say it is me. I gave Josh the, I did.
Dude, you're so cool.
I did stuff to Josh's team this week.
Are you on YouTube?
I'm not on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I'm not on YouTube. I defeated him, though, 214 to 178. Josh, Jalen Hurts only got you 27 points, and that's what's, you were expecting 50 out of him. He only gave you 27. What a disappointing performance from Jalen Hurts.
It is a tough week. I got to be honest. It was a really tough week for the squad. The pep talk, the pregame pep talk just wasn't at the energy level it should have been. Next week we'll try out some new running backs. We'll try out some new plays and maybe mix things up on defense. And I think we're going to get him this week.
I mean, luckily for me this week, I had a great performance from Rondale Moore, who got me 36 points. Jerry Jeudy put in 27. Denzel Mims, 26. 25 from Adrian Martinez. 24 from J.K. Dobbins. Overall, I was just getting contributions all over the place. 3 points from LaVisca this week. That is something that, especially, I believe you took him 3rd overall.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, ooh.
So here's my thing. I took Kellen Mond specifically for these first 3 games, and it was a tough week for Kellen. Obviously, they played Clemson, so I wasn't expecting him to do too much. He did pretty much what I expected, but I didn't want to go drop him on waivers and then try to get him back because I'm going to keep him for one more week. They play Southeastern Missouri State this week, so I'm playing Kellen Mond for one more week. But yeah, LaVisca against Nebraska, that was really disappointing. And then Jalen Reagor had a bye week, so it was a tough week at wide receiver.
Now, the second matchup was literally down to the wire, with BK coming in just ahead at 227.95, defeating Lyle at 224.30. So, Lyle, you're currently the only winless team. You needed 4 points to pull out the victory, but your team just couldn't get the job done when it mattered most.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how you say don't get the job. Yeah, I mean, they didn't win, but 224 points, that was more than both of you guys.
That's
true. The thing is, I don't know how many changes I can make to this team. I mean, Fields went off, Herbert went off, Tylan Wallace went off. Eno still had a good game stat-wise toward the end because he caught the big touchdown. The problem is BK had just a little bit more. I mean, that was, I guess Trey Sermon putting up 9 was what was the Achilles heel.
Also, the 40 points from Cam Akers definitely helped Brady out a little.
Also, Lyle, Hunter Bryant only got you 6
I
in the
know.
tight end spot, so that killed you there. Yeah, I think the Cam Akers 40.5 points really, really just put it over the top. Jonathan Taylor with 30. Only 28 for 2. I think it was projected 54.5 actually. And Bryce Perkins with a solid 22.5. So hey, no complaints.
Now this is what I was hoping for. Now I was unaware, or I guess I wasn't sure as to how close these games could potentially get, because we have stacked lineups. Like I said, we have 2 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers, 3 running backs, and they're essentially all the best of their position. So I was hoping that they wouldn't be complete blowouts. And like we saw this week, there could be matches that are down to the wire that are close. But Lyle, you got to pick up a win, bud. 0-2, and now you do have a chance to pick up your first victory this week against me. The undefeated versus, well, the winless. And then you got Josh going against Brady. So the current line is, Lyle, it says I'm a minus 21 in this game, so Vegas is rolling hard with my team. Vegas is rolling hard with my team.
Have we announced what the final prize / punishment is for this league?
We've announced what the punishment is moving forward, is that whoever loses has to pretty much write a 1 or 2 page essay pretty much explaining why their team lost and why their team is the worst. But now we've declared that the winner will get to host a show for an episode.
What if it's you, though?
Well, then I get to host a show for an episode.
He'll be your host for the evening.
I'll be your host for the evening.
Where have I heard that one before?
So if these guys can get the job done, one of them, it'll be the Josh Schaefer highlight show.
I mean, we didn't even get introduced this week.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We didn't.
Yeah.
We don't need to. It's our show.
Oh, my goodness. I am looking at, what do we got here? The Brady, oh, my. This is unbelievable, guys. I'm looking at the projections right now, and obviously projections don't mean anything. I projected 229, Lyle's projected 208, Brady's projected 217. Josh comes in with a projection of 261.
Yes, I do.
261. So
That's you got hot.
You got a what is that? A 44-point projection over BK. 44-point favorites.
Those 21.5 points projected by Georgia's defense for Josh really sets it over.
It's just because I just don't have very good matchups this week for my guys. I mean, I have great matchups, but the games themselves aren't really good. Jalen Hurts and CeeDee Lamb are going up against UCLA. Texas A&M, is going up against Lamar. They have Lamar this week. I think somebody else on my other team is Southeastern Missouri State. Jalen Reagor's against Purdue, so that's okay. Travis Etienne is against Syracuse, but I don't know what that one is. Larry Roundtree is going against Southeastern Missouri. Alabama's going up against South Carolina, so maybe. Stanford's at UCF. Mississippi State's at Kansas State. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Blake, Adrian Martinez is projected 32 against NIU. One of two things is either going to happen. He's going to play a half of football, or he's just not going to put up a
NIU's
lot of
gonna
points
win.
because they're struggling.
That's the downside of when these teams play these awful teams, is that they'll go in, they'll get their 4 touchdowns, and then they're done. So it's like you get capped at 25. So I personally don't like these lower tier matchups, but it's going to be a fun week, guys. I'm looking to ride out this momentum and go 3-0 and continue Lyle's awful streak of going 0-3. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but we are going to briefly, and I say briefly, just quickly touch up on the AP poll, because unlike the first few weeks, there was, the first 2 weeks there was essentially no movement going around. This week there was a lot of moving going on. Most notably, LSU moves up 2 spots. They're now in the top 4 after their win against Texas. Michigan, they fall 3 spots after barely squeaking it out against Army, which luckily Michigan did, or else I don't think I would have been able to come on the show this week.
Same.
With my predictions being all over the place. Texas, they only dropped 3 spots after their loss to LSU. Texas A&M, they only dropped 4 spots after their loss against Clemson, and the worst one out of all of them, you guys probably missed it because this game probably ended about 4 a.m. Eastern time, and that is the Washington Huskies falling 9 spots after their loss against Cal. Jumping into the top 25 is Maryland, USC, and Virginia. All right, guys, so I guess just a quick question to you guys. What pretty much stood out? Was it a team jumping up a few spots? Was it a team falling too many spots? Or was it one of these teams all of a sudden creeping into the top 25?
I think Washington falling 9 spots is kind of a lot. I didn't think that they were an amazing team going in. I thought that they would have been fine coming in anywhere between 15 and 20 at the beginning of the season. But here's my thing with that Washington game, and we'll touch on this a little bit later. This game was delayed for hours, and then it was raining, and there weren't that many fans there. And Cal has a very interesting defense, I think. So, I think Washington struggled a little bit, and I think they'll bounce back.
I mean, yeah, if you want me to pick something on the AP poll, I guess it's UW dropping 9 spots. Other than that, nothing was that significant. You also know I don't like getting into the AP poll very much because I usually just shrug it off until the actual rankings come out. But I guess Texas falling 3 spots for losing to a Clemson team. Maybe
LSU.
LSU.
I got it mixed up too.
A&M dropping 4 spots, losing to Clemson. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't drop them that far after losing to a team who maybe was one of the greatest college football teams of all time and brought a ton back. Other than that, it's just, let it play it how it is until November when the rankings come out.
If you want something to talk about Maryland. Put up 142 points total in the first 2 games, jumping up to 21. That's what I'm looking at in the AP poll this week. That's it.
And with them.
Sorry, your mic was still off from water.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead.
Brady. And with them jumping up, and with USC getting in, and then even Virginia getting in, I don't really have a lot of problems with the AP poll this week in general. I think for the most part, actually for 3 weeks now, 3 weeks in a row, I have not had it's just nitpicky things. I really haven't had anything wrong with the AP poll.
The only thing I don't understand about the whole Washington falling 9 spots things, I could understand if they lost to like Oregon State, but looking at teams that receive votes, Cal currently comes in as the 27th rated team in the country. So essentially they got Washington losing, who you believe is a team that's right on the outskirts of the top 25. I think that's a little harsh, making them drop 9 spots if the voters are this high on Cal. I think maybe drop them like 4 to 5 spots is something that's fair, because, I mean, you look at who lost. You got Texas and Texas A&M. They dropped 3 and 4 spots for losing to good teams, but I think dropping Washington 9 for essentially losing to a top 27 team is a little harsh. But yeah, essentially looking at the rest of this, Maryland coming in at number 21. Guys, Maryland has scored 142 points in their first 2 games. That's the 3rd most all time. Or I guess the 3rd most since they started keeping track of this, since 1936. So only 2, and I don't have the list of what the 2 teams were. Our intern Sean Salehi provided me with this great information, but only 2 teams have scored more points in their first 2 games of a college football season than Maryland. So this team is scoring like no other, and we're going to touch on them in a bit on whether or not they're legit. But Maryland hopping into the top 25 at 21. Now, I'm not exactly sure when Maryland was ranked last. I would assume it's been in a while.
I think it was 24 2014 might have been the last time they were ranked because that year they finished, I want to say 7-5 or 8-4 in the regular season, and then I think they lost their bowl game to Stanford. But they were a pretty good team that year. I think that was probably the last time they were ranked.
2013, they peaked at 25.
Okay. Wow. So who
made
knows?
it to the Military Bowl?
Well done. Going to Twitter right now, we're just asking you guys what you guys thought about the AP poll. As I mentioned, if you want to interact with us, follow us on Twitter at the HHShow_. Tall Matt wants to know where Rutgers is.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
Numero uno.
Yeah, honestly, Rutgers,
They're coming.
it's a shame that they're not ranked
New
top
Brunswick,
5.
New Jersey.
They are coming. Daniel wants to know, or he doesn't want to know, he says that North Carolina should be ranked. Now, I'm looking at this right now, and based off this, 2, 3, 4, they come in at 30. I mean, North Carolina, they've had 2 impressive wins so far this season, so if they can pick up another this week, they might find themselves in the top 25. Saquon Vid says Michigan should fall out of the top 10. So we talked about all these teams falling. Michigan fell 3 spots for winning a game. Now, I briefly want to touch up on this as well. Army is no slouch. I don't know why all these teams just schedule Army thinking it's going to be an easy game. I think Army should be respected more. Apparently, Army was paid $1.5 million for this game, which is odd considering the teams like Georgia State got paid $800,000 to face Tennessee. Army got paid $1.5 million. I think this is a game that Michigan easily should have won, but when I heard that the spread was 21 points, I was thinking, no way that they win by that much against Army. This is one of the best Army teams there's ever been. So yes, winning by 3 in overtime to Army's not ideal, but they're a very good team. They were, I think an 11 or 12 win team, I want to say, last season. So a close win against Army, I feel, is a little disrespectful to Army by dropping Michigan 3 spots. I don't think they should fall out of the top 10 for a close game against Army.
I think dropping them 3 spots is fine. I just
Yeah.
think I think anything more than that is a little disrespectful to Army. I don't even know if disrespectful is the right word. I just think people are giving Michigan maybe a little bit of too much hate and flack for this game because they didn't blow Army out of the water, and I don't think they really should have. Going into this game, this isn't exactly what I expected, but it's close because I thought that I thought that Army was going to keep it a close game, and I thought it was going to take Michigan at least 4 quarters to pull away from them. They never did, obviously, and we all saw what happened in the game, and I think that Army deserves a little bit of respect for that, but I also think people need to realize that Michigan is not the type of team, and it doesn't mean they're a bad team, but Michigan, the way that they're built, the way that their offense runs, they're not built to blow out a team like Army. They're just not.
Yeah, and no one essentially is because Army, they just run out the clock and it's good old-fashioned football. I love watching Army games all the time. I want to see, if we can get Army, well, I guess Georgia Tech doesn't do it anymore, but if we can get Army versus Georgia Tech, just a game where there's not a single pass attempt thrown, I think that'd be a fantastic game with the final score of 6-3. Moving on now, we're going to talk about some of the best games from this past weekend. Now, this was one of the best weekends of college football I can remember as of late. So many good games, which is going to make up for this upcoming weekend that features a lot of duds. But the first game to talk about, guys, is Clemson and Texas A&M. Now, Clemson, they did get the 14-point victory. It was essentially a 21-point victory. Texas A&M scored a late touchdown with a few seconds left, which completely messed up the spread. It was one of the bad beats, that was hilarious. But Clemson, to no surprise, dominated Texas A&M. None of us were shocked. I think that they dominated Texas A&M. So I guess your takeaways from the game, I personally thought that Texas A&M was going to look a little better. I thought in this game that Texas A&M was very disappointing. Now, granted, when you're going against Clemson in that defense, that's expected, but I was expecting a little more out of Kellen Mond, who we talked about earlier, had an awful game, an absolutely awful game. But overall, it was just, I thought more disappointing on Clemson's end than convincing. Or what did I just say? Did I say disappointing on Clemson's end? I can't remember. I thought Texas A&M was more disappointing than Clemson was convincing, if that makes sense.
I thought it was a little bit of both. It's pretty much what I expected. I think I thought I was going to see maybe a little more of a 35-14, 35-21 type game. And it was I expected a 2-touchdown game, but a 2-touchdown game where it seemed like Clemson was in control from start to finish. And we did get that at times, but again, I think you're right, Blake. I think at times Texas A&M was a lot more disappointing than they were convincing. And this week, I had kind of thought that Kellen Mond probably wasn't going to be the guy for my fantasy team. But he's just not up to the same level, and he doesn't play to the same level as some of his SEC quarterback counterparts do. And I think that that's what sets Texas A&M aside from other teams in the SEC, like Alabama, like LSU. I thought we learned a lot about Joe Burrow this weekend, and we'll get to that. But this week, what I learned about Kellen Mond is he's going to be a reliable guy for Texas A&M, but not on the big stage against teams like Clemson, and then in the future like Alabama and LSU and Florida.
Yeah, I honestly thought the Clemson offense was going to do a little bit more than they did. I mean, the defense was great. They only let up one touchdown. ETN only went for 53 yards. I mean, the A&M defense held a Clemson offense that's as lethal as anybody's in check for at least an okay amount of this game. I mean, they did most of their damage in the second quarter of that game, and then they only had 7 points in the second half. I kind of thought after that second quarter, Clemson was going to start to pull away, but they kind of let A&M hang around a little bit. And no disrespect to the Aggies because they were a top 12 team in the country, but I just look at Clemson on a different level right now, I guess them and Bama, than everybody else. And I thought Clemson was going to win about 38-10, and it was a little bit closer. So going forward, I mean, Clemson's still the top dog. I think they're going to be fine. But, yeah, I just thought the offense would do a little more.
Now, assuming that Clemson really doesn't play any more, I'm not going to say meaningful games the rest of the season, but they're not going to be threatened the rest of the way. Do you think that Trevor Lawrence should have done a little more in regards to like his Heisman campaign? Because he's going to put up good numbers the rest of the season, but they're going to be kind of skewed where he's going to put up like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns a game. When you look back like at Trevor Lawrence's season, you're going to look to this Texas A&M game and see that he threw 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Do you think that has the chance to potentially hurt him if it's like a close race and they say, well, his biggest game of the season, he did get the win, but these are the numbers he put up?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think if he had thrown 2 more touchdowns, people would have shrugged it aside. The fact that he only threw 1, the fact that he had less than 300 yards passing, and again, I know Texas A&M is still a good team, but the fact that he's about to play a lot of teams that Clemson should handily beat, and his numbers are going to look pretty gaudy against Charlotte, against Louisville, and against Wofford,
Wofford's coming into town.
I think this was his big chance to make a statement. I gave him a free pass last week, saying it was only week 1, despite the 2 picks. But I thought he was really going to bounce back this week and put up some really big, flashy numbers. He didn't quite do that, but the more important thing is Clemson gets the win. So, yes, I mean, to answer your question, short and sweet, I think if they look back to this game and it's a close race, it might hurt them.
Speaking of Heisman contenders, this transitions us into the next game. Guys, who would have thought that we'd be saying this, but Joe Burrow, is he legitimately a Heisman Trophy candidate now after this game? Because LSU, they come in, they win 45-38, a fantastic game between the Tigers and the Longhorns. Now, I believe Brady did Coach O say go Tigers in his post-game interview. I think he was like cut off right when he was trying to say it.
I think this is what he said.
Hey guys, thank you. We love you, man. Go Tigers.
There we got it right there.
Yeah.
Now, this game...
That was from every game,
Now-
right? That was this weekend?
Yeah, that was this weekend.
Now, I know for a fact after 2 weeks, we've talked about this before, you can't really have any Heisman. Like, we still have our same Heisman rankings. Last week, I kind of updated it just based off of week 1. Now, after week 2, again, you can still have the 3 or 4 guys you had for the season. They can still be ranked there, but you can easily make the case that Joe Burrow, after week 2, is leading the way. He was phenomenal. And this is one of the better passing performances we've seen over the last few seasons, mainly because he did this on the road at Texas. 31 of 39, 471 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. And it's like Texas had no answer for him. He single-handedly won the game for LSU, and it seems like this has been the one downside to LSU over the last decade, it seems, ever since Jamarcus Russell. LSU's always had one of the best teams in the country, but for some reason, their quarterback was always not the best, and that was what held them back. But now with Joe Burrow, I think this actually is an LSU team that can do some serious damage.
Yeah, and before I even get into Joe Burrow, the fact that this game was 45-38 baffles me. I thought this game was going to be much lower scoring than this. And Joe Burrow, I think he showed that he's legit. I think he absolutely did. I think he's the guy that LSU can rely on for the rest of the season. I think he's a guy that can lead them through SEC play against some of the most stout defenses in the country. I mean, he threw 8 incompletions on 39 attempts, 474 yards. Yeah, he had a pick and he had 4 touchdowns, and he was my player of the week. He's my player of the week because he played against a ninth-ranked Texas team, because he did it on the big stage against a guy like Sam Ehlinger, but he threw 4 touchdowns. But then on the other side of this thing, you also have Sam Ehlinger, who threw for over 400 yards, no interceptions, and 4 touchdowns. And what I think is disappointing about that is Sam Ehlinger, I think, came into this season also as a Heisman hopeful, and this game, I think he's going to get overshadowed a little bit because they lost, but he's still, he was 31 for 47, so he did throw 16 incompletions, for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns with no picks. And I think he might get overshadowed.
And he
a little
ran
bit.
for one, too.
Yeah, he ran for 60 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think if Texas can win out, he still has a very good case because you talked about Trevor Lawrence not really having that game. Well, if Texas has 1 loss on the season, and they look back and they say, the 1 loss, how'd he do? And, he threw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, rushed for 60 yards and a touchdown. It was a very fantastic performance from him, which is going to be overshadowed by the great performance from Joe Burrow. But, yeah, LSU, they just looked absolutely... they looked unstoppable. I thought that they were going to run away with the game. It looked like they were going to run away with the game after halftime after they were up 20-7. Texas came back in the third quarter, and that fourth quarter was just an absolute battle. There was, 39 points scored total in that fourth quarter. An absolute fantastic game. Now, I do think LSU's legit, but this is also, I did pick Texas. One of us picked Texas as well. I think you might have picked Texas to win this game, Lyle. I still think Texas is a legitimate team. I think they're still one of the better teams in the country. The fact they were able to hang with LSU like this, I would have liked to see them win, but I still think Texas, as I mentioned, it's tough for them, but I still think they have a chance at the college football playoff if they're able to win out in convincing fashion. But overall, this was just a fantastic game, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah, and when you've got LSU and you've got a tough non-conference opponent and there's somebody looming in conference that you're going to have to beat once, maybe twice if you want to get to the playoff. I'm hinting at Oklahoma. That's tough for Texas because they didn't get the win this week. But then moving forward, I think LSU is legit, and I still think Texas is too. But again, they've got to get through Oklahoma and the rest of the Big 12, and we know that anything can happen in the Big 12 because everybody can score points.
Yeah, and the nice thing for them now is with that added championship game, it helps their case a little bit if they can beat Oklahoma twice, assuming they get there. Yeah, really just a ton of offense from both sides. For Texas, while they lost the game, I think it's a promising sign that you're starting to find other weapons aside from Colin Johnson, as they had 2 receivers go for 100 yards or more. On the LSU side, they had 3. I don't remember the last time an LSU offense was this loaded and this good. Probably when they had Odell and Landry. But since then, the fact that they had 3 receivers go for over 100 yards and they combined for 4 total touchdowns, and the fact that how Joe Burrow looked as well, LSU usually prides itself on great defense, but maybe the tides are turning a little bit. Maybe this offense is what's going to propel them to a great year because we have not seen an offense like this in a long time.
Also, so is this Leonard Fournette's brother they have at running back? So I don't remember hearing about that. It's truly not the team that they were led by a few years ago, and B. Harris was at the helm at QB.
Oh, boy.
Those were the days. But now moving on to what I thought, in my opinion, guys, was the most exciting game of this weekend of college football, and that is Nebraska-Colorado. It was very overshadowed because it was at the same time as Clemson, Texas A&M. This was a game that Nebraska was absolutely running away with. They were up 17-0 at halftime, up 17-7 going into the fourth quarter, and Colorado comes and scores 24 points in the fourth quarter. It was an absolutely fantastic comeback. They then go into overtime in Colorado. They win the game. And they were storming the field. I remember we were watching the game, and some people were going why are they storming the field for beating number 25 Nebraska? Well, first off, the 10% of Colorado fans that were at the game, considering that stadium was 90% Nebraska fans, this used to be a huge rivalry going back to, the 90s when it was at its prime. But going back, I think, further than that, I think this is the first time they've played in about a decade or whenever they moved conferences. This was a huge win for Colorado, and the way the comeback was, I thought it was warranted, but Colorado, this was a team that was very slept on in the Pac-12, and Nebraska, this just is not a good look for you. You had a huge lead, and now all of a sudden everyone's saying Nebraska is overrated. So I guess, guys, first off, just your thoughts on the game, but secondly, is Nebraska truly overrated, or are we kind of sleeping on this Colorado team? Because we mentioned as well earlier, Colorado did this all essentially without their number one playmaker on offense contributing anything, which makes them that much scarier.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of both. I don't think So here's the thing. The Big 12, I think, is very similar to the Pac-12 in the sense that it seems like anybody can beat anybody. And I do think Colorado is going to beat somebody big in the Pac-12 this year. Wow, never done that before.
The Pac-10.
Yeah, they're not going to beat anybody in the Pac-10. I think that they can upset somebody big in the Pac-12 this year because it just seems like that's how the Pac-12 conference is. But I don't know if they're underrated. I think Nebraska might be a little bit overrated. And here's the problem I have with that. Scott Frost was supposed to come in here and be the guy, the savior to this Nebraska program coming in after Mike Riley. And heading into this season, even I thought that this would be the year. A lot of people thought this was going to be the year that he turned it around. And so far, like I said last week, they won in week 1. And it didn't feel like a win, and it's not supposed to feel that way. And then you come into this game, they're up 17-0 at halftime, and Nebraska comes back and scores 31 points in the second half, 33 points in the second half, whatever it was. And that's just not supposed to happen. So he's got his playmakers. He's got Adrian Martinez. He's got J.D. Spielman. I like the running game too. But what are you going to do to actually get a win here? When are you going to start seeing improvement with this program? And right now, we're not seeing it at all.
Well, they've got a couple of weeks for chances at tune-up games because they're going to have NIU at home, and then they'll go to Illinois, and then they play Ohio State at the end of the month. So, I mean, they have some time to kind of figure this whole thing out if they really kind of want to re-jumpstart their season a little bit when they face the Buckeyes on the 28th of September. But yeah, the fact that they blew this lead does not look promising. The fact that the defense just kind of fell apart is not a good sign. And the fact that they played South Alabama so close in week 1 is only going to make fans even more worried. So I know people talked about this was the year. I think Adrian Martinez can still be a good quarterback. I think J.D. Spielman is a phenomenal receiver. But in terms of their schedule, they've got some serious work to do because they've got Wisconsin on it too, and they've got Iowa on it too. So if they want to salvage this season and have any chance at the Big Ten title and maybe still keep their name in the college football playoff talk, considering they only have one loss to this point, they've really got to make some changes quick.
Now, touching back on the rivalry of this game, Colorado and Nebraska have met every year from 1948 to 2010.
Wow.
So it is apparently one of these big rivalries. Nebraska's won 49, Colorado's won 120, 2 ties. But since 2010, they've only played twice in the last 2 years, both of which going to Colorado. But you look at this whole rivalry, it was a thing for 60 years, and now it's back. That's one of those cool things in college football is you can play a team for 60 straight years, not for 8 years, and then pick up right where you left off.
Which I'm glad they did, so hopefully they can start doing this more in the future. But an overall great game, a great look for the Pac-12. We're thinking, wow, the Pac-12, this is so fantastic for us. What a great look for Colorado, beating Nebraska. And then, just about 12 hours later, Washington, one of our lone hopes, absolutely crushes any dream we had of anything, and they lose to Cal. Guys, it seems like this always happens with the Pac-12. There's always like that one fantastic win you're thinking, wow, maybe our conference is going to get a little more respect. And then Washington they come and they just let this happen. Like, why can't the Pac-12 ever have a clean Saturday?
I'm not too worried about it, and the thing, I didn't think Washington was going to be that team. We'll see. I think they bounce back anyway, as I hinted to earlier. But Cal only scored 20 points. The problem I had did you guys watch the end of the game? Is it like 1:30?
Yeah, I was sound asleep in bed at 1:30 a.m.
Yeah, so I got in bed, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was exhausted. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I was like, ugh, I can't sleep. Looked at my phone, and I got the update that said, like, oh, close game, start of the fourth quarter, and I was like, it is 1:45 in the morning.
You're probably thinking it's the Hawaii game versus Oregon State.
So I turned on the game, and Washington kicks a field goal with like 50 seconds left in the game. Let me pull up the scoring plays really quickly. Washington kicks a field goal with 2 minutes left in the game. All right, 2 minutes left. They're going nuts. A 49-yard field goal. The fans that did hang around are going nuts. They're doing close-ups of the kicker. They go down to Chris Peterson. And he's like, yes. And then the Washington defense comes out on the field. And I don't think I've seen that Washington defense get just pushed around so much on one drive in a long time, because Cal's offense came out and just ran the ball down the field and kicked a 17-yard field goal to win it. And it just felt like first play of the drive, I was like, oh my God, Cal's going to win this game. But I'm not too worried about it because of the conditions, the thunderstorms, the delays. There were a lot of factors away from the football field that I think affected this game. So I don't know if Cal's that good. I think Cal's going to fall apart a little bit in the coming weeks, and I think Washington will bounce back, and I think they'll actually be competitive in the Pac-12.
Yeah, in this game, in terms of the lightning delay, I mean, all the fans that were there, especially like the students, they were at the game. It gets called for lightning. They go back to their dorms or wherever they're living. They all clear the stadium and walk out. I see all these Snapchats from some of my friends at the University of Washington just hanging out. And then all of a sudden they start to play this game again, and they make the 20-minute walk back to the stadium as they creep into the wee hours of the night to see this game finish out. Now, in terms of the actual game itself, Josh talked about it. He doesn't think Washington's that team, and he might be right. To be fair, they lost a lot from last year to this year, specifically on that defensive side of the ball, which is why maybe Cal had a little bit more of the ability this year to kind of take charge on that final drive. Yeah, I mean, Washington dropped the game. I still think they'll be around a 9 to 10-ish win team in the Pac-12 conference, although I don't think they're as strong as previous years. However, I mean, again, a lot of factors into this game, but Jacob Eason did not look fantastic. Of course, they had to run the ball a lot, but he threw a pick. He didn't have any touchdowns on 162 yards passing. So is there a little bit of concern? Maybe. I think the key is to see what they do next week and what will likely be some more normal conditions.
Now, one final, not really necessarily game to talk about, but we do need to talk a little bit about the Maryland Terps. We talked about them about 15 minutes ago. The fact that they've scored 142 points through 2 games, that's the third most all-time, at least going back to 1936 through the first 2 games of a season. They come in ranked 21, guys. Now, their win against Howard, 79-0. We're just gonna pretend like that didn't happen. That doesn't count. But this was a game against Syracuse. Syracuse was ranked. This is a good Syracuse team, and they absolutely manhandled them. 63-20. Now, it's only been 2 games. Only one of them has been an actual, I guess, decent game against a respectable team. But is this a Maryland team that a lot of people in our Q&A comments are saying, can Maryland actually be a threat in the Big Ten? So, guys, I mean, can Maryland actually be a threat in the Big Ten?
I'm not going to say wait till they play Ohio State because that's too far down the road. I'm just going to look 2 weeks down the road to Penn State. If they actually play Penn State close, I'm not even going to ask them to win. If they play these guys close, I'll give them some respect, and I'll say, you know what, these guys maybe can really hang in the Big Ten, of course, although I, of course, don't think they're going to win it. But if they get blown out by Penn State, I mean, I'm just going to kind of shrug and say, you know what, I'm not that shocked. I'm not buying it yet. If they prove me otherwise, I will. But for now, I'm just not buying it.
So I used to turn on the other microphone. One of the big things that I look at in that, I'm guessing committees and everybody looks at strength of schedule. Maryland has the 105th ranked strength of schedule out of 130. Howard didn't even have a posted strength of schedule, and Syracuse's was 79th. So they're on the not good upper echelon, but the bad half of the upper echelon of those strength of schedules. They're on the lower half of the entire thing, especially at 105 out of 130. Not very good. I think they're the real deal for the first couple of weeks. They're going to be riding this high, but it could come crashing down really quickly.
I'm really interested to see what they're going to do, though, because, I mean, Syracuse is no slouch. I think they're going to prove that later this season. They don't have too many tough games. They do have Clemson upcoming, but they don't have too many tough games this year. I think they'll be good in the ACC. Again, the ACC is trash. But look, I think Maryland could cause some problems, especially with their offense. I mean, Jackson threw to 8 different receivers this week. He threw to 8 guys. 4 of them had more than 45 yards of 45 receiving yards. Also, 6 different people carried the football, and 4 of them had at least 67 yards or more. And all 4 of those guys had at least 1 touchdown. They ran the ball for 354 yards this week. I mean, that's crazy, especially when you've got that many guys carrying the football. So I think they have a lot of options. I think they're very fast. I mean, what I learned about Maryland that game was not only can their offense score points against a good team like Syracuse, but the fact that they're so fast. Every guy that touched the football had good wheels. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do against a lot of Big Ten teams because there are some Big Ten teams this year that are kind of slow. I mean, Michigan looked kind of slow this week. So we'll see.
I'm not saying that they're going to beat Penn State in 2 weeks, but let's just say for fun they somehow get past Penn State, assuming they get past Temple next week. Their schedule after that is at Rutgers, at Purdue, versus Indiana, at Minnesota, and then versus Michigan. If somehow they can squeak past Penn State in that, they have a chance to go 8-0, so a lot can happen. And I'm seeing you guys react to something, which I do think is, in fact, the Christian Yelich is out for the season news. Is that what I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are a baseball show for the next 10 seconds as I'm wearing my Dodgers shirt. That was fantastic.
Yes,
I
gotta use it.
The Dodgers just clinched their 7th straight division title, and Christian Yelich, MVP favorite, is out for the season. But for more baseball information, you could turn into Inside Pitch tomorrow at 7 p.m. on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Blaze Radio's #1 and only baseball show, hosted by yours truly, with Lyle Goldstein on the show as well. So if you want to listen to baseball stuff,
Oh, yeah, Lyle's there too.
tune in tomorrow night. But that's some insane baseball news that I was going to bring up, but then I saw your guys' reaction to it, so I assumed it was the Christian Yelich stuff. So you hate to see it.
Back to
That's a good one,
I'm
Brady.
with you though, Blake, on the schedule. Yeah, I mean, up until those final 4 games of the season, that final 4-game stretch is really tough. Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, Michigan State. But until then, you're right. If they somehow get past Penn State, they might start to get a lot of love from people, especially if they're 8-0 going into the final 4 games somehow. So that's why I say, let's see what you got against Penn State. If they prove me wrong and they prove that they can hang with those top teams, I'll buy in.
All right, now, this wasn't really a Q&A question we got. This came from someone that suggested that we talk about it really quick. Now, guys, they are going to Iowa State this week for game day. Iowa State's never hosted College Game Day before. Now, he listed off all the schools that have yet to host College Game Day. Now, some of these definitely have a chance to host, some don't, but I'm going to read them off very quickly, and then you're going to let me know who you think has a chance to potentially host this year. The teams that have yet to host are Cal, Syracuse, Minnesota, Wake Forest, Rutgers, Kansas, Duke, Illinois, Virginia, and Maryland. Right off the bat, I mean, those last two I feel like have the best chance, Virginia and Maryland. Syracuse had their chance.
Yeah,
but
they had their chance.
It was literally served on a golden platter. If they would have beaten Maryland this past weekend, they probably would have been ranked 20th or 19th. They would have been hosting Clemson this week, and they would have had game day. But instead, they said, you know what, let's go to Iowa State versus Iowa. That's a more intriguing matchup. But guys, who do you think has a chance to maybe host game day this year? I'm liking Kansas or Rutgers, in my opinion.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm thinking Pasadena City College.
Ooh, the Lancers?
Yeah.
Ooh.
The home of the Fighting Blake Harrises.
That's what I like to see.
I think Maryland. I'll keep it with the Terps. I think the Terrapins looked good through their first couple games, and if they keep it up, if they get past, Penn State in a couple weeks.
It could be the Penn State game.
See, it could be the Penn State game.
Because
Maryland's ranked now.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, I think Notre Dame plays Georgia that week. But
Neither of those teams are good. I think it's going to be Maryland Penn State.
Let's vote for Maryland Penn State.
I mean, I would be happy to see it. I think that would be a cool thing for Maryland to get game day out there. I'm sure they get a big turnout. Yeah, they've probably got the best chance. Maybe Virginia if they keep winning some games. But unless the Seattle U Redhawks can somehow host game day. Shout out to that random caller, Jordan from Kirkland from last year, who said he was a Seattle U fan. But aside from them, Maryland.
Hey, I'm hoping the Wake Forest can host so Captain Rob can show up at game day.
Oh, Captain Rob. We need to bring him in again. You know, I think Maryland's got a good chance. I'm surprised they haven't, actually. With all those, and maybe Minnesota with the battle of, what is it, Paul Bunyan's axe? Is that their big rivalry game?
I think it is,
Paul
yeah.
Bunyan's? Either that or Indiana State, the Fighting Larry Birds.
Virginia might have a tough chance this year because they actually don't play Clemson. However, if they beat Florida State this week and they beat Old Dominion in 2 weeks, odds are, right, they're going to still be between 20 and 25, and they've got Notre Dame on the 28th.
But
but it's
at
on the
Notre
road.
Dame. Yeah,
You know, all that stuff that I just said leading up to it, don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
their home schedule is not looking good for them. So I'm actually shocked that Rutgers has never hosted it, though, even though they're always pretty much bad. I mean, there wasn't one time where they said, let's go to Rutgers for a weekend.
If any year, it's going to be this year because of the 150th anniversary of college football, Rutgers being like the first college football program. If any year, it's going to be this year for Rutgers.
Agreed. Which transitions us into our next segment, Over Under. So every week, guys.
Have you kept track of the over-unders for us at all?
Well, I mean, I could just go back to past shows and see what you guys say. So, yes, technically, yes. But pretty much every week, guys, I give you guys a certain stat line or something to talk about, and I say whether or not you're going to take the over or the under. So, Brady, I just bring that music up just a little tad because I want the full experience here in the studio. Fantastic. All right, guys. The first one. Over-under on 6.5 quarterbacks finishing in the top 10 of the Heisman. So essentially 6 or 7.
I'm gonna say under.
Over.
What? 6.5, you said? Mm-hmm. I'm going under.
I think it's going to be a close under. I'm going to go with 6. Now, I went back and I looked at the top 10 Heisman votings over the last decade. Now, surprisingly, there were a lot of Heisman years that finished with 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks finishing in the top 10, where I would have assumed it would have been 7 or 8, but not as much as you would have thought. But there's a lot of good quarterbacks this year with Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts,
Burrow, Ellinger.
So there's a lot of quarterbacks. So you're all going, and Brady does the hook 'em down. All right, boys. Elijah Sindelar, currently leading the country with 932 passing yards.
Just
What?
picked him up on my fantasy team in the middle of the show.
I'm not shocked that you did. Big Purdue guy. Leading the country currently with 932 passing yards. A Purdue quarterback has never finished the season with 4,000 passing yards. So, guys, 4,000 passing yards, over or under?
I'm gonna say under.
I'll do my best impersonation of that fan at the Yankee game. Under.
Can you guys tell me who the closest player was?
Now, well, I mean, I know the answer, so I'm not going to say it.
Josh Lau.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Blake, who is it?
It's not Drew Brees.
Really?
It's not. Drew Brees was second by a few yards. At least that's what Wikipedia said.
Oh, really? I just looked it up by all-time Big Ten. It is Drew Brees.
Oh, well, all-time
I'm sorry,
total yards.
Purdue.
All-time total yards. Yes,
Single
it is
season.
Drew Brees. His single season?
3983
Huh.
in a season.
Did you ever
Interesting.
learn to not use Wikipedia?
That's also true. Well, it looked like
I'm
a
going
reliable.
to go under with Elijah Sindelar.
I'm going to go over. I think he can get the job done. He's on pace to do it, so why not? He's got Rondale Moore that's going to help him out. This is a fun one, guys. This is a fun one. So Clemson won this week by 14 points. It should have been 21, but they won by 14. Over-under on this being their closest game this season at 13.5 points, meaning do you think they're going to finish a game this season by winning than less than 14 points?
Can you repeat it, please?
So over-under is 13.5 for being Clemson's closest margin of victory, which this week was 14, meaning do you think there's going to be a game this season that they win by less than 13 points?
So this is a yes or no question.
So over under 13.
Oh,
and a
over
half.
under 13 and a
Yes.
half. Oh, I'll take
Yes.
the I'll take the over.
Over.
I hate saying this. I didn't hear the question because I was looking at my last stat. I was wrong. Drew Brees, 3,983. He was second to Curtis Painter, who had 3,985. Only one Big Ten player has ever passed for more than 4,000, though.
Wikipedia.
That's shocking that there's only been one.
And it's
one
Dwayne
big-
Haskins with 4,800.
I was going to say, I feel like it just happened.
What was the question? Real quickly, sorry.
Clemson's past win against Texas A&M was by 14 points. Do you think that's going to be the closest game of the season for them? 13.5 points being their closest margin.
Under, no.
Yeah. Looking at the schedule, there's no way Clemson doesn't beat a team by more than 14 every week. There's no way. There's no way unless Wofford is actually legit.
So you're going over.
I'm going over.
Yeah.
You're not considering playoff or championship or anything like
Well,
that?
those they could be different. I'm just talking about regular season.
Okay, regular season, I'm going over then.
Regular
They're not
season.
going to lose by more than
The final one, guys.
win by more than that.
Pac-12 teams to make a bowl game. 7.5.
7.5. ASU, USC, Stanford, Washington, Oregon, Utah.
Washington State.
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Same.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm taking the over as well. I think we have a chance to have us up to 9 teams. Oregon State's not getting in. That's no doubt. I don't think UCLA gets in because they're definitely going to go 0-3 this week. Colorado, that might be a tough one. I still don't think they're that good. Arizona's going to be a tough one as well. So I think we have a chance to get 9.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going to take the over, and that does wrap up this segment of Over Under. All right, fantastic. Now, I didn't put this in the notes, guys, because I recently saw that this came out later in the day, but they released the 150 greatest teams in college football's 150-year history.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
don't know if you guys have taken a look at it, but if you haven't, I'm going to have you guys take a guess as to who was declared the greatest team in college football history. And no, it wasn't the 2016 Chattanooga Mocs.
I'm not going to say. I was looking at it earlier.
Oh.
I was too. I know who it is.
I don't know who it is.
All right, Josh, well, I'll let you guess.
Is it Pac-12?
It is not.
It is not. What conference is it? Wow.
Well, currently, the Big Ten.
Currently the Big Ten, going Nebraska, 95.
1971.
Ooh, okay.
Right school.
Yeah, all right.
1971, the Huskers held 10 of their 13 opponents to 7 points or fewer. Only number 2 Oklahoma scored more than 17. On Thanksgiving Day, the Huskers beat the Sooners by 4 in the game of the century. They beat number 2 Alabama by 32 points in the Orange Bowl. Their other ranked opponent, number 9 Colorado, went down 31-7. So essentially, they beat the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4 team that year.
Pretty
Wow.
good. You know, this most recent Clemson team was ranked 5th?
Really?
5th.
Well, just for those that don't have the list up, number 2 was the 2004 USC team. Number 3 was the 1972 USC team. Number 4 was the 1995 Nebraska team.
Okay.
So currently the 4 best teams have been Nebraska and USC, with the number 5 being the 2018 Clemson Tigers, number 6 the 2005 Texas Longhorns, number 7 the 2001 Miami Hurricanes, at number 8 the 1979 Alabama Crimson Tide, number 9 the 1956 Oklahoma Sooners, and at number 10 the 2009 Alabama Crimson Tide.
The 2005 USC team was also on there. They were 56th. Or 52nd. They should have been higher.
Now, I was going through some of these teams. Now, once you get to like the 70s and 80s, how are you really determining this? Like the 1888 Yale team at 94. Like,
Oh, by the way, if you go and read some of the comments on Twitter about this list, UCF fans are livid about
Uh-oh.
it. They are livid.
Hey, what about
They need to relax.
What about the 1942 Grambling team that went 8-0 that's ranked 120th?
hey, ASU comes in at 110th. The 1975 season.
No 96 team on there?
Nope,
Do you know the highest mentioned ASU personality on there?
I do not.
It is
The highest
it go?
mentioned ASU personality?
Dennis Erickson is listed on the list. Wow, you could have just told Brady you were taking a sip of your water. Dennis
that sound
Erickson
better?
is listed as the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes in 1991, and in 1989 they were 64th. Dennis Erickson, not a great coach at ASU.
Here's a really low one. The 2006 Boise State team at 138.
Wow.
Now, this could have been like a fun show segment in its own, kind of just going off these teams. The 1951 San Francisco team, wow, that was a good one at 144.
Look at 147, North Dakota State from 2013.
That's
Throwing an FCS in there.
That's remarkable. And at 145, the 2012 Mount Union team, the Mount, they cracked the list at 145.
They don't even have a logo on the website for them.
That's how you know it's a good one. But I mean, I thought this was a really cool list going back, looking at these old ones. But like I said, what determines, the 2009 Florida team against the 1966 Notre Dame team? How do you determine who's better unless they had some sort of statistic for it? I'm not really entirely sure. Like the 1894 Yale team, as Brady mentioned, what was it? The 1942 Grambling team that went 8-0. Who knows? But this was kind of a fun list to go through. So if you want to look at this list, go to ESPN.com. It should be on the front page, I believe.
All I know is that if you Command F to search for a team and you type in Arizona, the only Arizona that comes up is Arizona State. Nice.
Well done. But guys, it's time to move into our Q&A. Now, unfortunately, Sorry, I just had to take a little break there. Unfortunately, no time to take phone calls tonight because we're running a little low on time. So we're just going to be sticking to our Twitter and YouTube questions. As always, if you want to ask us a question, make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HHShow_. Ask us a question. We got about, I think, 40 questions on Twitter tonight, about 50 or so on YouTube, so a lot to go through. Only was able to pick 3, so if your question makes the cut, well, that means you had a really good question that stood out. So as always, if you want to have your question answered on the show, make it a little different and unique. We get a lot of questions. Is this team legit? Can this team win this week? Can this team do this? Is this guy a Heisman contender? Which is the basic stuff we talk about during the show. So if you want to make it on, have something clever, have something unique, have something fun, because we like answering the fun questions more as so just like the basic generic college football questions. So the first question, guys, comes from Mike Flippeteer. Could this year's all SEC team beat the Miami Dolphins?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to think about, but I'm one of those people that thinks no college team is ever beating an NFL team because the NFL teams are the best of the best.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that one. You look at the NFL teams, it's a compilation of essentially what? The All-SEC team, the All-Big Ten team, the All-Pac-12, put together in one giant formed-together Power Ranger.
I agree.
Even if they're terrible like the Dolphins.
I think that it would be a legitimately somewhat maybe close game, like within 14, but that's the thing. These are all professional NFL players. They're the professional NFL players for a reason. But that'd be something, though. I wish they always did that. They would take the worst team in college football, or the worst team in the NFL, put them against the best team in college football just to see what would happen. The next question comes from Luis S. Hey, guys, diehard Rutgers fan here. If you had to pick the over, this should have been an over-under this year for this show. If you had to pick the over-under on 2.5 wins for Rutgers this season, what would you go with?
Under.
I'll go over.
Under.
Who are they going to beat, Lyle?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking up their schedule right now.
I'll just give them 3 wins, like the barely over.
All right, so they got Boston College, Michigan, Maryland, Indiana, Minnesota, Liberty, Ohio State, and my keyboard died on me, Illinois, Penn State, and Michigan State. I think they can squeak out a win against Liberty, and then maybe they can somehow finesse something against Illinois.
And then maybe one other sleeper. I'm just trying to give.
They're 0-2, right?
No, they're 1-1.
Oh,
So
Oh, no,
I'm
they
just,
are
I'm just trying to
0-2.
give our fan
Are
Luis
they?
a little bit of hope here. So I'm gonna say
Actually
a slight
don't know.
over.
Rutgers is 1-1, so they already have 1 win. So they
That's
just need to
big.
get 2 more. Now,
don't know.
if you were to rephrase the question to 3.5 is the over/under, then this conversation could have gotten really out of hand. But I'm going to go with over. I think they get the job done. Our final question comes from NDF Mixtapes. Is there a dark horse number 1 NFL draft pick that no one is discussing right now but could get picked first, like Kyler Murray did last year? Now, I'm assuming, I haven't really been paying attention to too many mocks this year, but I'm assuming the general consensus is either going to be Tua, maybe Chase Young from Ohio State is one of them. But I think those are kind of the consensus 1 or 2 guys that could potentially go number 1.
Yeah, I mean I agree. Those are certainly the 2. Maybe if somebody really likes Justin Herbert, maybe if somebody needs an offensive tackle like a Walker Little from Stanford, should he come back healthy. But I mean, quarterbacks almost always seem to find themselves going number 1 these days, and assuming the Dolphins finish with that first pick, I think they're pretty.
Assuming they've already locked it in.
Okay, so they're pretty high on Tua to begin with, so I think it's going to be Tua, but those were just a couple other names I'd throw in there. Guys like Herbert or like Little or a couple others, yeah.
If there's a guy I'm going to look at, I'm sticking in the trenches. Andrew Thomas, the offensive lineman from Georgia. He's a left tackle, just powerhouse of a human being. Hasn't let up a sack in, I think, 2 years. So that's pretty solid. He's not going to go number 1. I think we all pretty much know who is going to go number 1. But if I'm going to go with a guy who's not a star-studded receiver, running back, quarterback, whatever, I'm going to go with the offensive lineman.
Now, here's kind of a bit of a bold hot take, guys. What if the Dolphins, let's say they finish with the number 1 overall pick? Now, this is going to be a pretty good quarterback class. But the following year, in 2021, that is going to be a really good quarterback class. So what if the Dolphins go with Jerry Jeudy, number 1, wide receiver from Bama, get their wide receiver of the future, and then just, I assume next year they're going to be pretty bad, get your quarterback in the following year?
I liked everything you said up until the Jerry Jeudy thing. I think they should go and get an offensive tackle and then go get a quarterback. Because the thing about, you're right, next year's draft class, 2021, kind of reminds me a little bit of when it was Luck and RG3, because you have a really good pocket passer with Luck, and then you have a really, really good dual threat quarterback with RG3, the way you do this year with Justin Fields, where Lawrence is the pocket passer. So I think those guys are going to end up going 1 and 2. The question is, who do the Dolphins want more? Should they wait an additional year? I think getting a line to protect your quarterback is important first. So I think, I don't want to say if they're smart, but I think another route to go might to get a tackle and then a quarterback.
I'm just saying that because the first mock that I loaded up, it did have Jerry Jeudy going number 1 overall. So
that's fair. Or maybe they go with like Chase Young on defense to build some defense, or who knows? Grant Delpit's such a great safety; he could be going as high as the top 5. But yeah, just to build some other pieces before getting a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just looking through those quarterback rankings right now, and yeah, that 2021 class is absolutely fantastic. I'm looking at another one right now, and I'm looking at a mock draft for 2021. It's got the Miami Dolphins taking Trevor Lawrence, but then you got Justin Fields. I mean, you just got a whole bunch of good talent, and that 2021 draft is going to be a good one. But guys, it's now time to move into the Pick'ems. Now, before we get to our Pick'ems, it's time to go over our Pick'em rankings in the ESPN College Pick'em group. Now, I know you guys are deep down in these rankings, so I can't really find you guys. Now, I do have some good news, boys. We are one of the top groups in the country right now. We are currently ranked 69 in the country.
Yes.
Really nice, guys.
Nice.
Fantastic. Good for us. So we're the 69th best group in the country in regards to points. Average points scored at 10.90. Fantastic. Well done to all you guys out there making us one of the nicest groups there is. Now, we still have a 5-way tie for the leaderboard with 15 points. Andrew Shepard Keys, KT Koffroth 1, Brucev Momentum, Ice 0517, and Red Flame 2194. Unfortunately, ESPN 36841092658 is no longer on top of the leaderboard, Brady, the guy that stole your ESPN username.
Yeah, he stole it right from me.
So unfortunately, that guy's not at the top of the leaderboard, but we have a 5-way tie. So if you guys want to have your username mentioned in a shout-out, make sure to do these pick'ems. You guys can go perfect the rest of the season and find your way atop the leaderboards. Guys, I only have 9. Sounds a lot like my real pick'em scores, which we're going to get to right now because the updated pick'em scores, guys, in 4th place. That is a fantastic
New
drop.
favorite
I'm glad
sound
you
effect.
found it. How about this? Every time I'm about to say it, you drop it. All right. Go. In 4th place with 13 points is yours truly.
Want me to drop it again?
Well, yes.
Okay.
In 3rd place with 14 points is Lyle.
Oh, sorry, wrong one.
This is really not going well.
This had the potential
was
to
on
be
purpose.
so epic. In 2nd place with 16 points is Brady. And in 1st place with 17 points is Josh.
How many do I have again?
You have
Are you going to do
14.
it for me? Or? There we go. All right, cool.
So just to run that down really quickly, I have 13, Lyle has 14, Brady with 16, and Josh with 17. So it's going to be close again, boys.
Okay.
All right, Brady, cue up that fantastic music. Oh, fantastic. But cue up that great award-winning music because it's time for the Pick'ems, which is it might be the absolute worst weekend of college football this year, guys. These games are an absolute joke. There's no ranked matchups this week between 2 ranked teams, unfortunately. Just a bunch of really just disgusting games, but that's fine. We're going to pick them anyway. Number 20, Washington State at Houston.
I'm taking Washington State on the road. I like the offense. I don't know if they're going to put up a bunch of points against Houston because I think they can put up a fight too. But I'm taking the Cougs on the Cougs on the road.
Aren't they both
On the road.
Okay. I was gonna say, I got Washington State.
Wazoo.
I'm going to go with the Cougars in this one. I'll leave that up in the air.
No.
Washington State. North Carolina at Wake Forest.
I don't know what the Tar Heels are doing. I think Mac Brown just decided to fool around and win some football games. So I think they're going to fool around and beat Wake Forest.
It's gonna be a good game. I know North Carolina's playing hot football right now, but I like Wake Forest at home in this one.
Friday night, Wake Forest. Pat McAfee on the call once again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Something-
Hey, he did pretty good week 1. I thought it was entertaining.
Oh yeah,
know if you heard it
something's
all.
going on with the Tar Heels. Return of the Mac.
I never picked Blake.
Oh, you didn't? Well,
Nope.
I thought you did.
North Carolina.
No, I thought you said Wake Forest at one
No,
point.
I said at Wake Forest.
I'm going to go with the Tar Heels. Now, you got to feel bad for UCF because this was a game that on their schedule years ago was like, well, they finally got a legitimate game right now. They got Stanford, but Stanford's not ranked, so it's not going to be as pretty of a win for UCF if they get the job done. But nonetheless, they get a decent game at home. Who wins?
I'm taking Stanford on the road. I think they bounce back. They should have some guys coming back from injuries this week. I think SC punched him in the mouth on Saturday, and I think Stanford is going to wake up a little bit, head down to Orlando, and I think they're going to beat the Knights.
I like Stanford too, and I think USC is a good team, and I think Stanford played them fairly well, and kind of like Josh said, I think they're going to get a big road win this week.
I'm going to go UCF at home this week. I like him at home.
I'm going to go with UCF as well. The Fightin' Trojans travel to Provo, Utah to take on the Stormin' Mormons. Josh said he was nervous about this game a few weeks ago, but I guess the question is, Josh, are you still nervous about it?
I'm still a little nervous, but the Trojans have got Keaton Slovis, the Heisman Trophy winner to be, boys. Taking SC.
I got USC too. They're playing well.
In the words of the famous Sark, fight on. I'm going USC.
Blank, 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 fight on.
My name is Elder Price, and I would like to share with you the most amazing book.
Oh,
There you go.
Jeez.
We're celebrating with the Book of Mormon here. A fantastic musical. I don't even know if you can hear it right now.
Put it up to the mic if you want to play it.
Are you really picking BYU?
It has so many awesome parts, you simply won't believe how much this book can change your life.
All right, I'm going to just make sure I watch it there in case of copyright reasons, but I'm going to go with the Stormin' Mormons in this one. I feel like Provo's going to be led. I do think SC's the better team. I do think that they can get the job done. I'm not going to be shocked if they win by a few touchdowns, but BYU is one of those places where you have a good team that comes into like a nighttime game. I assume it's a nighttime game. Is it a nighttime game, Josh?
I think it's a day game.
It's a day game. Well, that's perfect because if they win, they can celebrate for a few hours and have a fun time. But I'm going to go with BYU in this one. Game day. Right now.
12:30.
Ah, that's upsetting. I'm not going to switch my pick, but
Hey, it's Dave Pasch on the call, though.
I really think SC has a better chance to win now just because it's at the daytime. What are those SC fans going to do when they go to Provo? I'm sure if Steve was going to the game, he'd really be really upset that they don't have any bars there.
Yeah.
That's
Good thing my dad's not going.
That's too bad. Iowa at Iowa State. It's too bad that Iowa State's not ranked for this game because that would have made the game even better. But they're hosting game day for the first time, so it should be a great atmosphere nonetheless.
I like Iowa State and what they've got. I like Brock Purdy, but I think that the Hawkeyes head in and get the win.
I did too. I think Iowa, as usual, has got a really good defense, and I think Iowa State can counter them a little bit with some solid offense, but not enough to get the win. So I've got Iowa.
Here it is, my first big upset of the season. I'm going Iowa State in this game. I really like him at home. Crazy atmosphere.
I'm going to counter with you. I like the Cyclones in this game. Number 9, Florida at Kentucky.
I zoned out there for a second. I'm taking Florida on the road.
You know what? I actually spent a little more time on this pick'em than I thought I would. I've still got Florida, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kentucky play them close.
I'm going Florida on this one.
I'm interested to know what made you spend a lot of time on this and why did you ultimately end with the Florida conclusion? What was convincing you about Kentucky in this game?
I just don't think Florida's that good. I mean, it was pretty close against Miami. I mean, Kentucky isn't an awful team. So, I mean, and Florida doesn't score a lot of points. So that's why.
I like it. You may have convinced me to go with Kentucky, but you didn't. I'm going to go with the Gators
I didn't
in
either,
this one.
but-
Florida State at number 25, Virginia.
Well, Florida State, gentlemen, isn't very good. And Virginia has got Bryce Perkins, and I'm looking for fantasy points in our other league. So I'm taking the Wahoos at home.
I agree with that. I've also learned better than picking against Virginia.
Did Lyle
I'm
just
gonna,
pick Virginia?
You just cut me off, dog. I said I've learned better. I've learned better than to pick against Virginia, so I'm taking Virginia.
Lyle, don't
Brady, don't cut him off.
Lyle, don't yell at the man who controls your microphone.
That's true.
Come at me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Are you going to play that clip? Because I know someone tweeted at our... There we go. Someone tweeted at us asking
yeah.
Brady to add that to his soundboard, and he said he would.
I'm going Virginia with this week. I like the Bryce Perkins effect.
Yeah, Florida State, they beat Louisiana Monroe by a point. That's because they shanked the extra point in overtime. Willie Taggart, I give you till week 6 until you gone. I'm going to go with Virginia big. TCU at Purdue.
Here's a fun one, guys. This one was the toughest for me to pick this week because I think that overall TCU has more talent. But Purdue, they've got some playmakers, and I like what Sindelar's been doing. Obviously, Rondale Moore. I think I'm going to take Purdue at home this week. I rode with Purdue last week, and it paid off for me, so I'm going to do it again this week at home.
I like Purdue too. I mean, a guy like Rondale Moore, a weapon as deadly as anybody in the country. I like him over a high-scoring TCU team.
You know, I have to use my words wisely for this one. I choose Purdue to win this game. I don't like Purdue. I choose Purdue to win this game. Yeah, whatever you say there, Blake.
Hey, highly questionable. I'm going to go with Purdue in this one. I hope Rondale Moore can get me another great game for fantasy because he's been fantastic so far. Texas Tech at Arizona. Texas Tech makes their return to the state of Arizona, which, by the way, guys, 3 years ago tonight was the Kalen Ballage game.
Yep.
You know who was Texas Tech's quarterback in that game?
Of course.
Pat Mahomes.
Which I've said to you guys, it's crazy that I barely remember him playing. All I remember about him is Texas Tech had this guy that throws for a lot of yards and kept the game close. Little did I know that he maybe has a chance to be like one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, going into it, I remember he got stacked in the end zone for a safety, and it was right in front of the student section. It was because they had a low snap, and it went off of his leg, and he wasn't ready for it, and he tried to pick it up and got tackled in the end zone. And I remember thinking, how does that happen with him at quarterback? And obviously it was a low snap, but he wasn't even paying attention. But to think that we saw 8 touchdowns from one player in one game, which we will never see again, and we also saw Pat Mahomes play on the same field that night, that was a crazy game. Crazy game. I've got Texas Tech. Yeah, I don't think Arizona's very good. I think that Khalil Tate's very good. But I think as a whole, I think Texas Tech's got a better offense, and I think they run up the score on the Wildcats.
Yeah, it might not be Patrick Mahomes out there, but they've got a pretty good quarterback in Alan Bowman, and I think he takes down Arizona.
Texas Tech in this one, and I think it's because you look at this U of A defense, what we saw against Hawaii, their secondary was atrocious, especially on the last couple drives. And the biggest reason is because, why, Lyle?
Because, Brady, why not?
So Texas Tech, why not?
That was perfect harmony.
Yeah, it was really good.
I'm going to go with
You
the
guys
Red,
are cute.
We should
the
be on
Red
Glee.
Raiders. So I'm going to go through the Red Raiders, but I got the box score up from this game from 3 years ago. So ASU defeated Texas Tech 68-55. There was a combined 48 points in the second quarter alone, a combined 31 points in the fourth quarter. So Patrick Mahomes in that game only threw for 540 yards, 5 TDs, ran in a touchdown. Manny Wilkins countered with 350 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Kalen Ballage had 7 rushing touchdowns, had 1 receiving touchdown. DeMario Richard, he ran for 109 yards. N'Keal Harry, 6 catches, 72 yards, a touchdown. I mean, overall, this is just one of those games which was unbelievable. Can't believe we were at it. And it was a nice, cool 106 degrees at kickoff at 7:30 p.m.
Who was Texas Tech's running back that game?
Well, they had a few, but one of them was Justin Stockton, who...
This guy busted like 4 long runs.
Was Kiki QT one of the wide
he
receivers in
didn't
that?
because he had 7 carries for 20 yards.
Who am I thinking of?
I don't know, but the rest of their rushing, they essentially didn't rush at all because aside from Mahomes, who ran the ball 11 times, Stockton ran it 7 times, Felton once, and White Jr. 2 times.
So did
Stockton did have a 75-yard
he had a receiving
catch.
yeah
Yes.
it was like a short catch like out of the backfield, and he like busted this long
Kiki
run.
Kuti had 1 catch for 8 yards.
Yeah.
But that was an exciting game, which brings us to the worst of the worst, which we are still trying to recover from last week's worst of the worst that's gone down in Harris Highlight Show history as the greatest worst of the worst ever. If you haven't seen it yet, well, you're missing out. Watch the show from last week or go look at us on Twitter. It was fantastic. Josh peaked. I feel like Josh can never do a worst of the worst again because there's no way he can top it. But we're going to give him an attempt to by giving him New Hampshire at Florida International.
Well, guys, as we all know now, the region of southern Illinois is known as Little Egypt. Well, little did you guys know that Miami, Florida, where Florida International is located, is known as Little Nigeria.
No, it isn't.
No, I was just naming another African country. Wouldn't that be cool? So here's the thing. What are people from Arizona called? You guys know?
Basinonians.
What?
It's what four-time Pro Bowler Ron Wolfley calls them. Basinonians.
So no. Lyle, you're from Washington. What is somebody who come from Washington called?
I've heard like Washingtonians or something. I don't know. I mean, I've heard Seattleites. Like, I don't know if that's like really a thing.
The state as a whole is not Seattle.
I know, but I'm narrowing in. That's why I said Washingtonians first.
So, Blake, we are Californians, right?
The Californians.
Yes, the Californians. Brady, what are you?
Go Hoosiers.
Oh, that's right.
The only state that does not have the name of the state in the official title.
Yeah, I was also told that people from Hawaii that live in Hawaii are not Hawaiian. They're Hawaii residents because Hawaiian is an ethnicity. I believe that's...
Who told you that?
I looked it up.
Huh.
But
I thought that was me playing something. You scared me. Don't
you
do
guys
that to me,
get
Blake.
you guys get to contribute. What are you doing?
It's the Californians.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay, it
You
is
guys-
the Washingtonians, Brady.
You guys get to contribute to my worst of the worst pick'em this week. I want to know what you guys find more interesting. Floridians or New Hampshireites? Because I think it's New Hampshireites, right?
I like New
I turned off your microphone when you're playing music.
I like New Hampshireites.
New
I
Hampshireites?
kind of like Floridian.
Floridians. Brady, what do you think?
I like New Hampshire.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, your picks don't matter because I like New Hampshireites too. So I'm taking UNH to win this game.
Wow.
That was so underwhelming, Josh.
I'm sorry, guys.
It was,
Like
just,
last
it
week
was just building and building.
What
and
am
then
I
it
supposed to
just-
do with New Hampshire and Florida International? If somebody else can find a better reason for why I should have picked New Hampshire or Florida International, let us know in the comments or tag me on Twitter.
Well, if anybody was on my Twitter feed this week, I did have a post.
I have you blocked.
How friendly. I have you muted.
Report.
I did have a post this week, getting back to our baseball theme of this show, about how from my first day of kindergarten until the time I graduate from this school in May, the Seattle Mariners will have appeared in this many playoff games. Yes, I'm holding up a 0. 0 playoff games while Blake and Josh over here today are celebrating while the Dodgers didn't celebrate about clinching the NL West for what, like the 7th straight year?
Correct.
So, Florida, what do? They draft a kid out of Florida International who Josh and I saw play in Cape Cod last year. He was really good, but you would think, oh, he's playing for the Mariners. That would incite me to pick Florida International to lose, but I actually think this kid's pretty good. I think he's going to help them, so for that reason, I'm taking FIU.
Florida International, the home of one Eugene Hilton, also known as T.Y. Hilton. So I'm going Florida International. Go Colts. T.Y. T.Y.
That's a Y?
That's this touchdown celebration. Is T. It's bigger, but there you go.
T.Y.
YMCA. T.Y. All right.
Well, now, as you guys know, with Florida International, they currently operate the only underwater ocean laboratory in the world.
Oh, I did know that.
So yes. Well, I'm just looking at fun way or reasons you should go to Florida International. Students come from 142 different countries. You can choose from more than 180 degree programs. It's among the 10 largest universities in the USA.
I also saw that link, and I looked up the top 10 largest, and ASU was not even in the top 15, so I don't believe that for 1 second.
Well, either way, I'm going to go with the Florida International Panthers with this one. Now, normally we go to Arizona State, but no, because this weekend, boys, the Chattanooga Mocs travel to Tennessee to take on the Volunteers. Well, if you want an FCS upset pick, this is it.
This
Josh.
is the one, and I'm taking Chattanooga.
Tell me if this sounds familiar in a new rebranded version. You're done, Tennessee! I got Chattanooga.
I'm going to let Blake say it, so I'm going Chattanooga, mock the world, baby.
4 seasons ago, we predicted that Chattanooga would mock the world and defeat the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, that they didn't, but they did not necessarily cover the spread. That they did. They had a 3-0 lead at the end of the first quarter over the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Chattanooga is going to mock the world. Do not sleep on Chattanooga. They will pull off the upset over the Tennessee Volunteers this week, which just bring us to the final game of the week. Arizona State's going to travel to Michigan State to take on the number 18 Michigan State Spartans. Everyone's going to be there, except for me.
I think we're throwing up the X on this one, aren't we?
Yeah.
The Des Bryant X.
Lyle and I are going to call an X on this one because we're calling the game. So I'm throwing up an X.
Oh,
we're calling a Des, but we're going to catch it.
You guys are going to Herb Street this?
Yep.
Oh, please. Whatever. All right, Brady. We get some bonus picks.
All right. I'm going to go Michigan State in this one.
Yeah.
I just think it's too Big Ten football, something to not mess with. And it's in Michigan State, unlike super hot, late at night like it was at ASU last year. I'm going to go with Michigan State.
Yeah, it's at Michigan State, East Lansing. It's going to be a fun game, but I think ASU doesn't really stand a chance. I think Michigan State's going to the better defenses, especially in the Big Ten. But we'll have to wait and see. But hey, maybe the Devils can get the job done. But I like the Spartans in this one. But that does wrap up this edition of the Harris Highlight Show as I just completely hit my mic. A lot of fun stuff. If you guys want to listen to the game this weekend, if you want to hear Josh and Lyle call the game, you can tune into BlazeRadioOnline.com at 4 p.m. Eastern. Now, are you guys doing a pregame of any sorts where they can tune in earlier?
Yeah, pregame show is 40 minutes before kickoff.
All right, so if you guys want to tune in to the pregame show, 3:15 Eastern Time on BlazeRadioOnline.com. It's going to be a fun time, so just watch the game, have some gaming on the background, but listen to them call the Arizona State-Michigan State game. It's going to be a lot of fun. For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, and Brady Klein, this has been Blake Harris from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix, and we will see you guys next week.